Are you in the process of starting a nonprofit and wondering what it looks like to have a strong start in your first year of operations? That's what we're going to talk about in this video. Welcome or welcome back. My name is Amber Melanie Smith, and I'm a nonprofit founder and executive director and YouTuber who makes these videos to help out people who are trying to make a difference through starting a nonprofit, social enterprise, or other method of creating a social impact. You're all welcome here. I hope, as always, that you find this video and all of my content useful and helpful in your own journey of creating an impact. Don't forget to give this video a like, to tell YouTube to share it with more people, and to subscribe to my channel because I have a lot more content like this. Okay, and if you've seen some of my other videos, you know that I have a website, foundertofulltime.com, where I have some online trainings for people starting a nonprofit or developing a sustainable fundraising plan. So definitely go check those out there. All right, let's get into our topic for today. Starting a nonprofit is a lot. I've talked about this in past videos. There is a lot to do to get an organization successfully up and running, and your first year is a pretty important piece of this puzzle. So I'm going to share a checklist of sorts, several things that if you can do these in your first year of getting up and running as a new nonprofit, you're going to be in really strong shape to grow effectively in the future. And what I mean by the first year of your operations is that period after you've received or are in the process of receiving your 501c3 status from the IRS, and you've already gotten some of that initial paperwork going. Oh, and you have a board of directors in place, of course, or at least the start of one enough to have filed your paperwork for that charitable status. Okay, so these things are all things that if I saw an organization doing these things, I would think to myself, yes, that organization is starting very strong, and I'd be pretty impressed. So let's get into this checklist now. Okay, so I'm gonna share 9 things, and the first one that is on the checklist for things strong organizations will do in their first year is collect community feedback. This is so important, especially in year 1, but really all years of your organization's existence, because the world is changing, you're changing, your organization is changing, and you always want to make sure that you are collecting as much information from your community, especially those that you're serving, as possible, so that you know you're always providing the best services possible to the community. That is, in fact, why you wanted to start a nonprofit in the first place, right? So you've got to be collecting that community feedback. But there's a second part to this. And the second part to this thing that you've got to do is even harder than collecting the feedback itself. And that is this. If the feedback is telling you that your way of doing things is not quite cutting it, is not quite meeting the community's needs, or is not serving people in the best way possible, you and your leadership have to be open to pivoting, to adjusting the way that you're doing things until you can hit the mark and meet your goals to serve the community. This mindset of being willing to change if you're not quite hitting your goals or you're not quite serving the community the best way it needs to be served is really important, and will make sure that you are operating in the most ethical way possible as a nonprofit. The second thing strong nonprofits do in their first year is create a system to measure their results. So we talked about collecting community feedback. This one is a little bit different because what I'm talking about is creating the actual processes needed to consistently track your progress towards your mission and your goals over time. So maybe it's designing a survey that you issue every quarter. Maybe it is tracking the number of people that you serve in a spreadsheet or a database. But whatever it is, it's creating a system that you and your leadership and future people that you possibly employ as a nonprofit can use, is important in year 1, is to create those systems. And having that system in place is going to allow you to track your progress towards your goals in that first year. And having the measurements of your progress is going to help you in turn attract donors and tell a great story of your impact to the public. So this is a really, really key thing that I think a lot of newer organizations neglect to do in their first year or two, because it's just something that is generally an afterthought. All right, item number 3 that strong nonprofits do in their first year is establishing processes to grow their audience. So a lot of establishing processes here on this list you're going to hear today. But systems to grow your audience are really important, because in this first year, it's all about getting the word out. And if you go out and you do 20 speaking engagements and meet hundreds of amazing people, then you can feel good in your heart that you know that you met some great people and reached some people. But if you haven't collected their contact information or have any way of reaching them or keeping up with them, then it's almost a missed opportunity, because maybe you inspired a bunch of those people you talked to, but because you didn't set up a system to collect their contact information and grow that audience, you might never hear from them again. And they might not remember the name of your organization or the website, and they might not think to reach out to you. So give them a way to opt in to receive more information from you as early as possible. One of the simplest ways of doing this is by creating a mailing list. There are lots of free services that are out there that you can use when you're just starting out until you hit a certain subscriber count, where you can be collecting email addresses from people who are interested in learning more. So let's say you're out at a bunch of speaking events, you can put a mailing list sign-up sheet out at the event and allow people to give you their email or their phone number so that you can stay in contact with them, and maybe one day they'll even become a volunteer or a donor. The fourth thing that strong nonprofits do in their first year of operations is develop a board of directors training process. So your board members are, unless they have a ton of nonprofit experience in the past, are likely new to a lot of things going on in the nonprofit world. So you have to really develop some trainings so that everyone can be as in the know and as skilled at running the nonprofit alongside you as possible. There are 3 things in particular you want to make sure your board is very well trained on. The first is nonprofit governance. So make sure they know your bylaws, make sure they know how voting works, making sure they know about the policies that they will need to develop over time to make sure your organization has really strong infrastructure going forward. The second thing is you really want your board of directors to become experts on your mission. So not just knowing and being able to memorize and say your mission statement, but also understanding the research behind the issue that your organization is tackling. For example, let's say you are an organization that is combating homelessness. Well, your board members should be able to explain to any stranger that they meet on the street why homelessness exists, why homelessness needs to be addressed, the various ways that people are already addressing homelessness and why they work or don't work, and what your organization is doing to combat homelessness in a way that is effective. So they need to be knowledgeable about the cause that you are serving. And the third thing that board members really need to be well trained in is fundraising. I know this one is really hard because people are terrified of fundraising oftentimes, and that includes lots of board members. But there are many ways to make it fun and easy to digest and help them see all of the various ways that they can contribute their personal skills and talents to fundraising in order to make it successful for your organization. Such as going out and doing a speaking engagement where they're simply raising awareness about your cause, because then you know people who hear about your cause at that speaking engagement are going to sign up on your mailing list, and then you're going to be able to communicate with them, and then maybe over some time they'll become donors. So because that board member did that speaking engagement, you now have a donor in the future. Lots of different ways to think about it. Anyway, those are the 3 things you're going to want to make sure to have board trainings on. The 5th thing strong nonprofits will do in their first year of operations is start to create some systems for proper accounting and bookkeeping. You want to be keeping every single receipt and scanning it and logging it. And if you can afford some kind of basic accounting software like QuickBooks, or there are plenty of them out there, invest in it early, because the more quickly you can show smooth accounting processes and are able to demonstrate how you're spending money effectively, the more quickly you're going to be able to attract donors. But the other thing is the IRS can audit your organization anytime they want. And if you don't have the bookkeeping up to date, you could be in trouble. So you want to make sure that you have those systems in place and that you're protected from audits. The sixth thing that strong nonprofits have in common in their first year is a vision for how they're going to grow. And this is in two different ways. The first way is your program outcomes. Maybe you're going to serve 10 people this year, but your vision is to serve 20 people next year and 30 people the year after that. So having that vision, that strategic goal, that you work together with your fellow board members, knowing where you're going as an organization, is something really important for planning your path out. The second way you want to have a vision is in your fundraising. So let's say you know what your program outcomes are going to be. You want to serve 10, then 20, then 30 people. Well, as you increase the number of people you serve, of course, you're going to need more resources in order to serve them. So how much will it cost to serve 20 people, then 30 people, and so forth? You get the idea. And that's your fundraising goal. You want to make sure that or more, so that you can put aside a reserve as well, is part of your fundraising strategy for the next couple of years. But the basic point here is that a strong organization will be not just thinking about the day-to-day, but be thinking strategically about the next couple of years ahead. All right, item number 7, speaking of fundraising, is that your organization, if strong in the first year of operations, will identify not one, but at least 2 to 4 different possible revenue streams for your organization's financial growth. So you never want to put, as they say, all of your eggs in one basket. The same is true for fundraising, but especially if you are a startup nonprofit organization, you are in a stage where you're putting feelers out. You're figuring out what fundraising methods are going to work best for you. How are you going to best raise the money that you need in the most efficient way possible to serve your mission? So a lot of startups will have multiple revenue streams, whether it's different events or building up your individual donor base or possibly some grants, though those can be very competitive, as I've talked about in other videos. Earned income revenue streams. There are so many ways that nonprofits can generate revenue. I encourage you to check out some of my other videos, especially my video called something like ways that nonprofits can raise money, because there are a lot. So just be thinking about the diverse revenue streams you're going to have in your startup years as a strong nonprofit. The 8th thing strong nonprofits have in their first year is a unified brand presence. So you've got your name of the organization, of course, but you want to make sure you have a domain name for your website and social media handles that all match the same name, same spelling. The goal here is to make it as easy as possible for strangers to find you so that they can support your cause and remember it. It's really hard to find an organization if they're spelled, their various handles are spelled different ways in different places and you're not quite sure if it's them or not. So making sure it's all unified and comprehensive. And the 9th and final way that nonprofits can be strong in their first year is to think about how they can effectively partner with other organizations. And by other organizations, I mean other nonprofits. I also mean businesses, places of faith in your community, schools, etc. There are so many different ways that organizations can partner with each other. And I've seen and observed that when they do it well, it can really grow not just your organization, but both organizations, audience, and resources. So thinking about who might be a good partner. There's an organization I know of that provides clothing for children. So when they serve a family, they might also identify that that same family has a need for food. So they partner with another organization that can provide the food. And together, those two organizations are serving many needs for that family. So that's just one example. All right, so if you're in the nonprofit startup phase, how are you feeling about all this? Hopefully not too overwhelmed. These things are definitely achievable and are just so helpful. If you can get these things established in your first year, you will be very happy with yourself in years 2 and 3 because you'll have the strongest foundation possible for success. So share more about how you're feeling and what areas that I talked about do you feel like you're excelling in, and which ones do you think you might need a little bit of extra work on? Share in the comments below because I'm really curious. As I mentioned before, if you are starting a nonprofit or developing a sustainable fundraising plan, I have online trainings at my website, foundertofulltime.com, so you can check those out there. I also have a newsletter for nonprofit leaders and changemakers of all kinds. The link to subscribe to that is in the description. And finally, I have a Facebook group called Change the World or Bust. We've got people in there from all over the world talking about the great work that they're doing. So come join us there. That's all I have for you today. I'm Amber Melanie Smith, and I hope that you found this video helpful as always. See you next time. Bye.